Starbucks. Now that I am no longer employed by the buck, I am going to share all the things that I did that absolutely should have gotten me fired. So like 5 minutes from closing this one night, a like 65-year-old man comes through our drive-thru and he orders his drink and he gets to the window and I'm like, I have made like no money being here. I want a tip. So when I tell you, this is exactly how I gave him his coffee. Oh, hi. Here's your caramel macchiato, big boy. It'll be $5.50. A $20 tip for me? Yeah, I called the customer big boy and he gave me a $20 tip. Also, my favorite thing to do while I worked there was to talk to our regulars in a different accent every single day, but I would never address it. On Tuesday, I would talk to them in a British accent, and then when they came through the drive-thru on Wednesday and they're like, where'd your accent go?
Tell me about a time someone talked about you in another language and you showed them that you understood them in that language.
So, at the Korean nursery school I worked at, I taught my kids in English. Yes, I can speak Korean. I've been studying it for 4 years, but I was there as an English teacher. But the power move of the century is that I can understand everything they're saying. One time my kids were playing like a cops and robbers type situation, and like obviously I had to be the villain. They'd run around and chase me, and then eventually I would just go, you guys caught me. So they'd catch me, but then all of a sudden one of my kids, Alvin, just goes, 선생님 왜 이렇게 너무 약해요? 이거 너무 쉬운데. All of a sudden, it just became a group thing. All my kids were like, 맞아, 이거 너무 재미없어. 그래, 우리 다른 게임 하자. 라이라 선생님 훨씬 더 센데. Like, the English teacher in me is not supposed to understand what they're saying, but I'm a little bit offended. Game on, you 3-year-old. So then all of a sudden, I'd just be like, 선생님 약한다고? 다시 하자. And then my kids obviously would just be like, 한국말 어떻게 이해했는데? 우리 망했다. I'll show them.
Tell me. One day, my brother and I were walking to a liquor. To get there, we had to go through an alley. So we're walking through the alley, and then randomly someone throws a rock at us. Like, obviously, we turned around, like, bitch. Literally no fucking cap. We turn around, and we see a clown looking at us with a hammer in his hand. I thought it was my mom pranking me, so I remember I looked at the clown, and I was like, you're so funny. Take off the mask. My brother was like, Sam, what the fuck, stop. Like, actually, this is a real clown. Remember, I looked at the clown, and then the clown's like, you have 5 seconds to run. Don't even try yelling. No one's gonna hear you. Oh, bitch, we flew. This is the best part. So my brother and I, we start sprinting because we want to get somewhere where people are. And the clown starts chasing us. So I remember the clown chased us into this like vacant house. My brother and I didn't know what to do. So we go into the house and then we start hiding, whatever. Tried calling the cops, no fucking reception. And guess whose house it was? Guess who met?
So we all know every school has a bully. At my school, our bully was Brayton Smith. Everyone was scared of him because he was known to enjoy beating people up. Sometimes it seemed like even adults were scared of him too. I was terrified of Brayton, so I just got smart and became his friend. It wasn't always easy being Brayton's friend though. He'd punch me for no reason, I had to laugh at all of his jokes or he'd give me the look, and he always ate my lunches. But it was worth it. At least I didn't have to worry about him beating me up like other kids did. But one day, Brayton and our classmate Zai started teasing each other. Zai's jokes were so funny, and I chuckled at one of them. I looked at Brayton, and Brayton was giving me the look. He told me to come here, and I did because he's my friend. Then he put a pencil on his shoulder and said, knock the pencil off. I thought it was a joke, so I knocked the pencil off. You know what that means? I'm gonna beat you up after school. My eyes lit up. Notice he didn't say we're gonna fight. He said he's gonna beat me up. Oh, he's confident. When the last bell rung, I was the first person out the school. I hopped on my bike and pedaled like I stole something.
Story time about how I faked being pregnant for 6 months. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I'm in my late 20s and I have a really successful career. I make plenty of money, I own my own house, and I have 2 cars. But I've always failed in relationships. I had a long-term relationship in my early 20s, but I broke up with him because he just wasn't pulling his weight. I paid for our extravagant lifestyle. He would basically help me with my work and then expect me to pay him. Also, I paid the rent, I paid for the cars, and I paid for every single dinner date we ever had. We also had a joint bank account, which was a huge mistake on my part, because ultimately I was the one earning all the money. After 4 years of dating, I decided to break up with him and I told him to move out of my house. I felt free and I started dating right away. I met this guy one night and he was amazing. He complimented me all the time and made me feel really good about myself. But here's the problem, I tend to fall in love really easily. After that night, that guy and I would talk every single day. He would come over to my place and we would have dinner. But the good thing about this guy...
Am I the asshole for kicking my 3-year-old son out because he won't help around the house or pay any bills? So for a little backstory, I, 30 female, and my husband, 31 male, have a 3-year-old son. And from the second that I found out I was pregnant with him, I told myself, hey, I'm not going to be one of those moms who lets her baby be lazy and just lie around and not do anything. I truly and wholeheartedly know that babies just choose not to talk. They choose not to walk because they do not want to be functioning members of society. They don't want to struggle like the rest of us. So what do? They sit there and pretend to be all innocent and cute so they can get out of washing the dishes or even wiping their own ass. So 2 days after he was born, I gave him some time to relax, to think that shit was sweet. And I told him, hey, shit isn't sweet around here, okay? If you want to live in my house, you're going to pay bills, you're going to clean up after yourself, you're going to do chores, you're going to pay rent. Period, okay? Because you know how much money...
Okay, so you guys...
Am I the asshole for refusing to let my family meet my daughter after all of them dropped out of my wedding upon finding out my wife was pregnant? I come from a conservative Christian family. All my family members were/are involved in the church and have church-based jobs. When they met my wife, they loved her and embraced her as their own. We dated for 2 years and discovered she was pregnant after we got engaged. Invitations were already given at the time, and we decided to still have the wedding on the date when my wife was 5 months in. My family was furious when they found out my wife was pregnant. They asked if we were even still considering having a wedding. I said why not, but they were very upset, especially my mom and dad, who said that they've always been known for their decency and good Christian values, and they weren't willing to let this stain their reputation, as in my wife and I getting married while pregnant. They officially dropped out and refused to negotiate, saying it was done and I have only myself to blame for this outcome and should have moved the wedding to out of town. I was hurt and I tried to change their minds and checked with other members, but my brother said he had no intentions to look like a joke in front of his fellow church members and dropped out too. My aunt pretended to be sick and said she may not be able to make it. She's 100% healthy. Am I the asshole for making my boyfriend rehome his German Shepherd? Me and my boyfriend have been together since we were in university. We're both 23 and recently moved in together. We both went to our local university, so we both lived at home so we'd be able to save money. Around a year after we started dating, my boyfriend got a German Shepherd puppy. I've never been a fan of German Shepherds, but I'm a dog lover, so I wasn't going to tell him not to get one when we weren't even living together yet. When we moved in, my dislike of German Shepherd was confirmed. The dog leaves hair all over the place, barks whenever someone walks by our house, needs extreme amounts of exercise. I could go on for hours. However, I was willing to put up with it, since my boyfriend had otherwise trained him well. I now realize how stupid that was, since the dog breed seems to have problems regardless of how well it's trained. I recently got a Rottweiler puppy, and to say that I formed a bond with him would be an understatement. The German Shepherd, on the other hand, didn't take too kindly to the puppy, and would have made its disdain for the dog known. Me and my boyfriend took the dog to the vet to see where the issue could come from, and she told us that some German Shepherds just don't get along with other dogs. My boyfriend suggested that we may have to rehome my puppy due to his puppy's disdain of him, and he...
So I'm terrified of teenage girls, like specifically my sister and her friends who are like all like 13, 14 years old. I will do whatever they say. Whatever they ask of me, I will do it. Today they asked me to take them to a skate park to meet some TikTok guys that they were like, one of them's the hottest guy in the world. And I was like, okay, I'll bring a skateboard and I'll take you. It wasn't far away. So I take them, and the first guy we meet, the one that was the hottest in the world, my sister's friend like, threw herself on the ground, was screaming like, I love you, like blah, 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 like basically crying. And she introduced me to him, and I'm like, unimpressed. And then we go into the skate park and I'm skateboarding around, and they try to introduce me to the others. I don't know who they were. Congrats to them on being TikToks. Famous people, I don't know. And they're like, oh, hi, what's up? And I'm like, I have no idea. I'm not in charge here. I'm just the driver. And then while I was skating around later, my sister's friend went real crazy and asked if she could go to the TikTok house that these guys are in. Obviously we didn't. They said no. It was crazy.
Story time about how everyone thought I was a psychopath in school. So once I was friends with this girl named Nola. When I first joined high school, Nola was my only friend. She showed me around school and even helped me with homework. But considering how nice Nola was, she didn't have any friends except me. Nola was one of the nicest people I've ever met, so it was weird for her not to have any other friends. But I just brushed it off and didn't think about it. A month passes of me being friends with Nola, and one day in class, a girl comes up to me and asks me why I'm friends with the weird kid. I started defending Nola, and then the girl went back to her seat and started whispering to her friend. I got suspicious of why they asked me that, so I went and asked Nola. Nola, why did that girl just ask me why I'm friends with you? Do both of you have beef or something? Then Nola looks at me in the weirdest way and says no.
I just said okay and went on with my day, but I was still really suspicious. Weeks passed by and Nola tells me that she wants to hang out, so I invite her over at my house. So she came and we started playing around, and she decided to go into my brother's room, and all I hear her say is, "Ew!" I follow her upstairs and just see her staring down the window. She was looking at a dead baby pigeon, and since a lot of birds do nest there, it was